The FedRAMP program at the General Services Administration has enabled agencies to safely use commercial cloud computing for more than a decade. Last month, the GSA launched an update called FedRAMP 20X. It's designed to make it easier and faster for vendors to get the authorization they need to take on federal customers. For how it looks to industry, Federal News Network's Tom Temin spoke to the founder and CEO of RegScale, Travis Howerton.
And we should point out that you have a pretty long history as a federal CIO in regulated areas, regulated agencies, regulated industry agencies. So you kind of seen this from both sides now. And what is going on with 20X? How does it look? What are they trying to do here?
Yeah, so you had an administration change who came in with, a typical mandate to look at regulations and figure out what's working, what's not, and try to optimize. And so I think, like any program that's getting a little longer in the tooth, it's always good to take a step back, look at what's changed, look at what industry needs, and look at where there's opportunities for continuous improvement. You mentioned my long career on the federal side. I retired as the first chief technology officer of the U.S. nuclear weapons program. The thing I learned there was the Toyota production system, which is just value stream mapping. Where's the value? Where do you optimize? Where's the waste? Where do you streamline? And so I think it's a healthy exercise to go through, and sort of a lot of stuff happening over there now.
And they mentioned that this will be a new cloud native approach to authorizations. So cloud native for cloud authorizations. What do they mean by that? What do you think is going on there?
I think for a long time, the onus has been on the government to do most of the work to do the authorization. There's been some redundancy in the process where you have to use an advisory firm to get prepared, or do it yourself if you're skilled enough. Regardless of your skill level, you need a third-party independent assessing organization, a 3PAO, to come in and do the audit. They really do most of the work to make sure you checked all the boxes, you have all the evidence, you did what you said you did. And then it goes through the agency and then FedRAMP to authorize you. So it seems like there's a whole lot of mother may I's in that process to get to the other side. And so I think what they're doing is saying, we're going to push more of that on the cloud service providers, the hyperscalers and others, to do more of this out of the box. And then industry help alleviate the burden on the government so that the government can take advantage of more cloud services, which is where a lot of the innovation is. It's going to drive the efficiency the administration is looking for. And how do we create sort of a Disney fast pass through this process so that it's more streamlined, it's easier, it's more cost effective? And so I'd say all the goals are noble from my perspective.
Now, the hyperscalers are responsible for their own environments, but within that platform, agencies have many, many vendors that provide specific services, such as your own company, compliance software and so forth. They all have to be FedRAMP certified. What's the bridge between the hyperscalers and the third-party providers to the agencies so that everyone is FedRAMP compliant and also actually secure?
Yeah, so I think the bridge historically has been in these CIS, CRM responsibility matrices that the CSPs give you. So they say, here's the controls that we meet for you. So when I run in an Azure data center, I don't worry about the PE controls, the physical security controls. That's 100% provided by them. They say what they're doing for me, we meet the federal government standards. You don't even have to look at or worry about this. And then there's another universe that are shared controls, which is they're doing part of it, and then they tell me the part I've got to do. And then there's a whole universe of controls that they're not going to help me at all. I'm responsible for it. And so I think where FedRAMP is pushing is for CSPs to provide more and more in that CRM that they provide out of the box to allow it to go faster. And not only just more and more, but also for the ones they do provide, give them the telemetry in an automated way that they can ingest for the highest risk controls in a way that reduces the burden on the federal oversight to have to check it to say, yeah, you're still in a good risk posture. We're still happy with this. We're still comfortable having our government data in it, sort of help you, help me sort of thing. And so I think they're putting more onus on the cloud providers, whether it's the hyperscalers or the ones getting the FedRAMP, to provide these things in a more automated way so that it's not such a manual, human-intensive process.
We're speaking with Travis Howerton. He's founder and CEO of RegScale and a former federal chief technology officer. This idea of inherited controls as new software is added into a stack, it sounds like that idea is coming into place here.
Yeah, that's been sort of a core basis of FedRAMP for a long time. And so if you think about the original cloud definitions from NIST, you have infrastructure as a service. And so I'm responsible for basically everything above that layer, but I get a fair amount of stuff I can inherit. Then I go to platform as a service. So maybe I'm using their database, their web servers. So I get more things I can inherit, all the way up to what everybody really wants to get is more the software as a service, which is you just kind of handle everything for me. I want to do as little as possible, but get the greatest business benefit possible. I think that's sort of the power of cloud and what agencies need. Reduce the burden on them and operations and maintenance to maintain, patch, upgrade these systems over time. Let them just consume it as a service in a very secure way. And that's been sort of the bread and butter of FedRAMP is get authorized once, allow many agencies to use it, easier for the CSPs, easier for the government agency, much lower cost to the taxpayer.
And we've seen a history, though, in reality, of some agencies wanting their own FedRAMP certification or not accepting what is done in acceptance by another agency. Do you see this maybe getting around that problem a little bit?
There is in the last FedRAMP, it's not, I don't think FedRAMP 20X gets you around that problem. At least that's my opinion. I think the thing that was trying to get at that is the clause in the law that in the thing that made FedRAMP law. Before it was kind of Pirates of the Caribbean, it was guidance. You were highly encouraged to use cloud services first, and that they preferred them to be FedRAMP. Now it's a law. But in the law, it said presumption of adequacy, means you need to take the FedRAMP unless you can provide a compelling mission need of why you are uniquely different and can't do it. I would like the language to be even stronger than presumption of adequacy from a industry perspective. I think as a taxpayer, we're paying a 20-30% tax on creating paperwork to certify all these systems across to the N number of government agencies. When at the end of the day, the data is the data. So if I've got controlled unclassified CUI data, that's really no different than CUI data in Department B. So I'd really like to see a approve once, use many infrastructure that allows everybody to benefit from that.
It sounds like they're almost bringing a little bit more of a risk management approach to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think they're bringing a risk management approach, but at the end of the day, an ATO, an authority to operate, is a risk management framework. And so it's always been around risk. I think what they are really trying to do is bring automation to the determination of risk versus pay checkers on top of checkers on top of checkers to do it by hand. And so I think what that gives you is a more real-time view into risk, which should drive the agencies to more secure solutions.
Would it be fair to say this would streamline things for industry to get to FedRAMP certification and for agencies also to acquire solutions?
I think that's the goal and promise of FedRAMP. And so you want the most innovative technology in the hands of the government as fast as possible without lowering your security standard. And so the thing about government is their data is very sensitive. They have the highest threat profile in the world. They're being constantly attacked. So you kind of got to balance those two competing priorities of how do we drive efficiency and get closer to the private sector in terms of technology adoption and innovation without lowering the security standard in a way that threatens our national security. And so it's always a sort of delicate balance point. But if you do it with automation and you do more real-time checks instead of after-the-fact people checks, you can get the benefit of lowering your cost basis and your risk basis at the same time.
And is there anything else you wish they would do beyond 20X here?
Yeah, I think the one long pole in the tent that's unaddressed that I hear talking to many cloud service providers is the burden of getting an agency sponsor. The first step in FedRAMP is find an agency to sponsor you. Increasingly, FedRAMP is pushing out to the agencies and say, you guys do most of the work on the ATO. The problem with that is there's a lot less people in the agencies nowadays with the DOGE efforts and other things. And so taking on more work makes it harder. What I really wish it was is a GSA fee for service. Then you don't have to appropriate anything. The CSPs pay their own freight to go through it. You don't have to go get an agency sponsor. And it can be a self-funding program in that way. And so I think that would be the recommendation that I would make to the FedRAMP folks who might be listening is if you can make it fee for service, lower the barrier of entry for folks to get into the marketplace, take the burden off the feds who are under pressure, then I think that's the win.
That's Travis Howerton, founder and CEO of RegScale and a former federal chief information officer, speaking with Federal News Network's Tom Temin. We'll post this interview